Soft beams of early morning sunlight drifted in through the skylight and illuminated the large cafeteria, glinting off the marble floors I now walked on. Despite the rosy surroundings, my focus was on the lone girl sitting at the center table. I paused by the door and watched her. Her sad eyes, her hand going up routinely to tuck short blonde strands behind her ear as she sat hunched over her forlorn breakfast. I approached slowly and still she did not look up. She was moving her food around the tray with little enthusiasm. I was waiting for her to speak first, but she was so lost in thought, she didn't even notice I was there. Suddenly, the chair beside me and opposite hers was pulled noisily back, and I looked up into the brown eyes of her boyfriend, Steve. Even though a frown wanted to steal across my face, I immediately smiled. Hey, had to keep up appearances after all. He nodded at me and took a seat. "Cindy," he said, as he reached across to still her hand from moving food around. She looked up slowly. Steve squeezed her hand before letting go. "That bad, huh?" he asked as he pulled his food tray closer. Cindy sighed and slumped, looking down at her food. The cafeteria was mostly empty now. It was super early in the morning and only us early birds ever ate at this time. My 8 o'clock class was still nearly half an hour away. "You don't know the half of it," she finally said. My brows furrowed in worry. "Everything okay? Is it?" I leaned closer and whispered, "The stalker?" Cindy shuddered but gave a sad, affirmative nod. "What happened this time?" Steve asked, already gobbling up his meal. Did he even care that his girlfriend was depressed? "Remember how the stalker has been leaving those creepy notes in my locker and other places he shouldn't be able to access?" Steve and I nodded. I pulled my homemade sandwich out of my bag and slowly unwrapped it. "Well, last week I applied for a locker change. I explained the whole situation and they were very understanding and walked me through the process to apply for a new one." She swallowed. Steve stopped eating. "What happened?" "I got the Loco info yesterday, but when I opened it to put in the stuff from my old locker," she hesitated, "there was already a note waiting. From him." "Oh my God, no!" I exclaimed. That was the normal response, right? "Wait, what?" Steve asked, gaping at her. "What the hell? That's beyond creepy." She nodded, her eyes tearing up. "Right? Like, how did he know before me?" She wiped her face as more tears came. "I feel like I'm going insane. I can't even go bother the school about another locker so soon." She shook her head and sniffled. "I'm just so tired. The police keep telling me to keep track of everything, but that there's nothing they can do." Steve scoffed. "What a bunch of idiots. They won't do anything about it till it escalates." His eyes widened as his face reddened. Sorry," he mumbled, realizing what that escalation probably meant. I looked down and rolled my eyes. Moron. I have no idea what she saw in him. Probably because he was as dull as a box of rocks. A tap on my arm startled me, and I looked up to see both of them looking at me. "What? What do you think she should do?" Steve asked. I shrugged. "We've had this talk how many times now? I just think you need to bring your parents into it at least," I suggested, knowing she'd never go for it. At least I could say I tried. She was already shaking her head. "You know why I can't do that. My mother is like a hawk looking for a reason to get me to transfer back home. It took me years to warm her up to the idea of me going to school so far away. If she hears about this, I can count my freedom goodbye." She shuddered. "So what? Are you saying you'd rather get stalked by this person than endure your own mother?" What the hell was Steve doing? "I mean, she tried to say, and he reached over and took her hands again. "Cindy, you know my father used to be a cop. I asked him about stalker cases and it doesn't look good." Throughout this entire debacle, Steve had been as involved as a park bench. Where was he getting all this gumption? She pulled her hand away sharply. You told your dad about me. I told you not to tell anyone. Jesus, Cindy, open your eyes. This person is too methodical, too smooth. This is probably not their first rodeo. The fact that they're still doing this means that they're used to their sick habits getting them whatever they want. I care about you, okay? I don't want anything to happen to you. She looked down and away. How about we table this for now? We're gonna be late for class, I threw in. At the cafeteria exit, Cindy and I went towards the right, and Steve went to the left. What do you think? She asked me. Should I tell my parents? Maybe moving back home will be the solution to all of this. The stalker can't possibly follow me 2,000 miles away, right? Guess it goes back to what Steve asked. Which would you prefer? Enduring the occasional poetic notes showing up in weird places? Or go back to living with your overbearing mom again? She sighed. Besides, he was wrong to tell his dad about the situation when you told him not to. I know, he's just worried. Well, you've got to wonder, what other business of yours has he told others? This is a severe breach of trust, you know. I don't want to talk about it right now. I shrugged and said nothing. Maybe she didn't like the poems in the last notes. I'll have to up my game. Sooner or later, I'd convince her that Steve was no good. And then, she'd be all mine.
Subscribe today, or beware.